Hey, this is Garrison Nieman. This is my poster presentation for Bioethics of summer 2022. My case was the Association of Molecular Pathology versus Myriad Genetics. A summary of the case is it's a landmark Supreme Court case that was finally decided in 2013 between a group known as the Association of Molecular Pathology. They were arguing that the patents held by Myriad Genetics were unethical and that most genetic patents as a whole were unethical. Myriad Genetics is a genetic research company that was founded in 1994. They were a small startup that partnered with the University of Utah. When they partnered with them, they sequenced the BRCA1 and BRCA2 genes. Each of these genes are linked to either breast or ovarian cancer, specifically breast cancer for the BRCA1 and ovarian cancer for the BRCA2. They have very specific mutations that increase the risk of those in women. The lawsuit alleged that the way the patents were written gave total access to Myriad Genetics and exclusive access to Myriad Genetics for those genes. Basically, as law is written, they owned the genes. Nobody else could research them, nobody else could do any type of testing with them, including the testing for the mutations that were linked to the breast and ovarian cancer outside of Myriad Genetics. So at the time, all the way up until 2013, either somebody had to go through Myriad Genetics, one of their subsidiary companies that they have licensed their research out to or their testing out to, or they had to pay for it out of pocket and go to Myriad directly. If their insurance didn't cover it, they were kind of out of luck. The bioethical impacts can be seen from there. Is it ethical to withhold vital testing and have exclusive monopolized testing for a very large, one of the largest types of cancers in women, both breast and ovarian cancer? And preemptive screening is one of the largest, how should I say it, the largest benefits for proactive healthcare. It keeps costs down all across the board. It's better for everybody. You can get tested early. You can identify if you have these genetic mutations. You can get on a better testing regimen, things like that. Another ethical issue was the fact of the all-encompassing writtenness, the way the law was written and interpreted by the courts up until that point. Basically, over 30,000 human genes had already been patented, and with these patents, every single one of them had total and exclusive access to the patent holder for 20 years. Now, back then when gene sequencing was a new technology and we didn't have what we have now with gene editing and things like that, there wasn't much of a cause for concern. But as we started to discover these genetic health links, as well as with new gene editing technology, the person that owns a gene, they would have total access to that editing. So if they were able to, say, correct that mutation in the future or anything like that, or if a new gene is discovered that has a health impact, if this law was allowed to stand and this case was voted the other way, we would have a group of people that potentially would either have the ability, the sole ability, to basically change things about a human being on specific genes, and they were the only company that could do that. Myriad Genetics would still have access to the BRCA1 and BRCA2 testing. They would have kept that exclusive access for full 20 years. As of the result of the court case, the Supreme Court sided with the Association of Molecular Pathology and against Myriad Genetics. Myriad Genetics launched a few lawsuits at some smaller labs that began testing for the BRCA1 and BRCA2, but they were basically thrown out because the testing for that, because it was linked to healthcare, there are US codes that basically exclude doctors that may infringe upon patent law to be free of any repercussions of infringing on that, as long as it is in the benefit and treatment of a patient. So Myriad Genetics basically lost all their lawsuits at that point, but on top of that, it also discredited all 30,000 genes, and now human genes can no longer be patented in the United States. As far as personal remarks, I started this case study expecting to find a lot of things on designer babies, a lot of things on potentially the future impacts, implications, the all-encompassingness of the word of law. That was what I thought the major focus would be. I was very surprised to find the two mutations as far as like the breast cancer, the ovarian cancer. I lost my father to cancer when I was young, and I can't help but wonder, had more people had access or affordable access to this testing, how many women have been diagnosed with breast cancer later in life than they would have necessarily been diagnosed previously had they been exposed and known of their own genetic mutation and known of their own genetic predisposition to it. Had they been screened earlier, could it have been caught earlier? Same thing with ovarian cancer. How many of these women suffered, died, everything like that, all because of one company decided they wanted to get rich. I don't feel like personally healthcare is something that should be profiteered upon, especially when it's something genetic that you cannot help. No company, I feel like, should ever have the right to tell you, yes, you have to come to us, you must pay our price. I understand that money is a big backer for research, and a lot of people want to keep their research close to the vest, but money is a shackle that we created ourselves. We invented the idea of money, and we live and die by that factor. And so I hope that one day we can have a world where we don't have to worry about money, where people can get the access to the healthcare that they need. Here is just a diagram of a sample size of people that were tested for BRCA1 and BRCA2 mutations. Of the mutations, there was 3.3% that had it for the BRCA1 and 5.3% for the BRCA2. So that's 3, almost 4, and 5, almost 6 out of every 100 people possess that mutation in the sample size that they took. So it's not uncommon, to say the least, and breast cancer is one of the largest cancers that affects women today. I just hope that eventually we can get to a point where our testing and diagnostics are to the point where we can potentially cure these, and that maybe in the future people will seek not to profit from healthcare, but to use it to make the world a better place.